when you first started My Burger Lab, I heard that it was started by a few uni guys. And I asked myself, wow, how did few young chiku who are fresh grad come out straight away start business? If you go and start business, you're a bit xiao one.
There was a period of 5 years where I felt very lost, where I didn't even dare meet up with my friends because people were flying through their careers and buying houses and this and that. And I was not in that category of friends. I didn't want to hang out and I felt like a loser lah.
Today we have a special guest here with us. His name is Renyi. If you do not recall the name Renyi, you'll probably know this name, My Burger Lab, one of the most popular burger chains in Malaysia. So today we're going to talk to him about his journey starting this business, entering into food and beverage space, and all the successes and more importantly, disappointments in the journey. Hi Renyi, welcome to our studio.
Thanks for having me, Peter.
I understand that before you started My Burger Lab, it wasn't really that intention since young to start a food business, right?
No.
But rather along the way, you actually went through engineering and stuff like that, and you dropped out. Throughout the podcast that I've heard, you have actually mentioned that there was a period in your life, it was actually very, very lost. You see yourself as the loser among your friends because drop out and all these kind of things. For 5 years, you were just changing job, not sure what to do, until you stumbled across the opportunity to become a food entrepreneur. How was this whole experience like for you?
Definitely not pleasant. If you trace back to my origin story, I was following the right path of what I think every Asian kid should be going, right? You go to high school, you go to college, decide what you want to do for the rest of your life, enroll in university and go ahead with that. My path was engineering up to that point. However, as you stated, I dropped out of uni when I was in Australia and I came back and I was like, what do I do? I decided to not pass time at home, but go out and find things to do lah. So whatever that interested me, I just went to try it out. From working in restaurants and cafes, as everyone might have expected. I also worked in marketing offices as an intern. I've worked in one of the more interesting one was a cold call agent for a hotel. Basically, I convinced people after I call them to buy hotel membership. I learned a lot of skills there. I'm an introvert by nature, so I'm able to develop a skill where talk to a stranger, convince them to part with 400 ringgit for a 1-year membership. I thought that was great. Although it was a bit scamish at that time lah. Different story. The point is that, I tried different things and realized that much later on, these things that I tried differently, while it did not seem useful in terms of skill, but I was collecting different skill sets that allowed for me to, I guess, when the time was right, to use it in my business. So there was a period of 5 years where I felt very lost, where I didn't even dare meet up with my friends because, people were flying through their careers and buying houses and this and that. And I was not in that category of friends. I didn't want to hang out and I felt like a quote-unquote loser lah.
Right.
After that, I decided, okay, enough is enough. I want to pick myself up again. Let's finish the engineering degree. I'm good at math. I'm good at physics. Engineering shouldn't be an issue. So thankfully, my parents were able to support me. Again, this is speaking out of privilege. Were able to support me to go through my second chance at the same degree in University of Nottingham, Malaysia. And that's where I met some of the best people. One of them is Wikiet, who later became a partner at My Burger Lab. So those years were a lot of confusion, feeling lost and not belonging to, I guess, society to some extent, and a lot of self-reflection as well. In hindsight, I feel like, I was rushed through the system, meaning that, you have to do this by when, you have to, get a job by when, you have to get married by when, buy a car by when. It was something that I just couldn't relate to, and I just lived life to my own drum,
That's right.
Drumbeat lah, right?
Yeah.
And it's something that I would advise most people who feel like that. I think there are a lot of us like that, where, when you get pushed through the system, you feel that it's not right and you want to fight it, but you don't know how to. So it could be something as simple as taking a gap year. I think it's something that I would recommend to all youngsters before they commit their life to university. So that can be another conversation later on. But for me, because a gap year was not even within the cards, I fell out of the system.
That's right. For me, myself, being a parent right now, I see my kids, growing up and everything, or I've been investing my time in reading some parenting book. Recently, I read this book about children's brain development, right? And then it was said that as you're young, your prefrontal cortex, which is in charge of making rational decisions, are not that developed yet. That's why teenagers make bad decisions, right?
Dumb decisions.
Dumb decisions.
We all have been there.
Only by the time you're 18, it starts to develop more. That's exactly the time that we are going to college. You have to choose what kind of career to have for the rest of our life, which is a huge decision, right?
Yeah.
And as I was reading that, I actually got a little bit surprised by how our system is that you are forcing a young teenager whose prefrontal cortex is not yet even fully developed to say, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. Yeah. And that's a lot of pressure. Yeah. But nonetheless, I can't help but to wonder, how did your parents felt at the point, right? I can definitely understand. Definitely felt angry. They felt disappointed. And over the past 5 years, after you left uni, coming back, you don't seem to have a plan, moving around and stuff like that. And I'm just wondering, for you at that point, I don't know if you've ever said that, are you just being lazy? Are you just being clueless, right? How was it like for you? What's going through your mind actually?
I think you hit it on the nail when you said I was just going with the flow. I was lost. I was angry at myself because no one was telling me that this will lead you to the right path. And I was trying to figure things out. So it didn't help when there are noises on the side that, hey, why are you doing this? You're wasting time, you're wasting everything, like wasting life and so forth. I don't blame my parents because I think that that's how they knew to best parent me, right? And I think parenting, there's no such thing as a guidebook lah.
Yeah.
So
I wish there's a guidebook to download.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we should write one. But looking back, I harbor no regrets or anger. But of course, going through it, not knowing, it's a sense of lostness. You're in a fog. You can't see the direction. Whatever that you sense or touch, you fall into it. So my time with the hotel is done. I'm gonna look for something else. Okay,
right.
There's a cafe hiring. I'm gonna go try that out. Right. So that was my journey. It was just, again, walking around in the dark, sensing my surrounding, whatever that kind of piqued my interest, I went for it. It was when I'm at work, I feel like I'm thriving because I'm learning. I'm glad to say that every single part-time job or odd jobs that I took, I thrived in it. I did well in it. And that gave me a bit of assurance to myself that I'm not scared because whatever I touch, I can do it. And that gave me confidence. But of course, when I step out of it, when I'm back to society, when I'm back home, then I'm reminded that in society's eye, I am a failure. Again, after a lot of wondering, then again, I was still lost. But I said, you know what? Let's go back to uni. That seems like a good safety net. So at least get a degree. That's what everyone says. And because, thankfully, in a position of privilege, my parents said, you want to go back to uni? Happy to support. And I went back to uni. Only to find out after I'm done with uni, that's not what I want to do. But safety net, meaning that if I want to go do engineering, at least I have a cert that I can apply for a job for. But once I got out of uni, and because I had a bit of exposure traveling abroad during my uni days, so I applied for this Work and Travel USA, which I would implore all students, if possible, to give it a try. You basically go to the States, work, and then earn some money, and then travel. The idea is see the world, okay? And because I saw the world, we got a few ideas. I got a few ideas, and in fact, I came back. My first business is actually not my burger lab. My first business was a t-shirt company that printed ultimate frisbee designs to cater to ultimate frisbee players. Because back then, it was not a very popular sport in Malaysia. Still not is, but a wider audience these days. I see everyone have their soccer t-shirts, their basketball jerseys, but no one is catering to that market. And I saw, hey, overseas people do that. Let me try that. Right. Another thing that I saw was Groupon. I was traveling. I was like, oh, damn nice eh. What used to be $50, now it's $25 because everyone grouped together and buy together. And then we came back and we started our own Groupon. That failed miserably because we weren't prepared for how much money one needs to pump into that. But it was a good experience. And then I started Burger Lab later on because in my travels, I saw In and Out. And in my odd jobs, I also realized that what made me the happiest was when I was serving people food. And that was when I discovered my calling. And that's why I feel like a gap year or even a 2 is so important, because when you go out there, you work in different industries, it clicks.
That's right.
Yeah. So if you're going to be a lawyer, for example, well, fine, go intern in a law firm, right?
Or either fight with people.
Sorry?
Or either argue with people a lot for 1 year.
Until you win. If you feel that you enjoy it, sure, right? So I think that, it's instead of being labeled as loss,
Yeah.
if the labeling was, oh, he's finding what he wants to do, it would have been a more positive journey. I think these days people are aware of that and people are more accepting of it. But
Yeah.
again, me back in the days, like 10, 15 years ago, in fact, it's not a widely acceptable idea.
That's right.
lah.
I was wondering to myself, right? So we went from that Renyi, who is a lost soul per se, or the discovery phase,
Yep.
yeah, to the other phase where now you are much more certain, right? You know that you do not want to work for people. You want to start your own business, and you're looking for different ideas right now. Yes, there are some failures along the way, but you're heading a direction now. What got you to suddenly say, okay, it's time that I'm no more going for just discovering aimlessly, but I'm going to go into something that's more purposeful in terms of my discovery? Because as a parent and as a teen, someone went through those years as well, I think there's a difference between these two phrases. One is kind of really directionless. It's just testing, having fun, and there's in a way, almost lack of responsibility. And that's why our parents are a little bit afraid of it in that sense, because how long am I going to support you for? Right? That's the question, right?
Yep.
Yeah, like as a parent myself, I'll be wondering, I'll give you 1 year, 2 years gap year, but hey, when's the end date of my parenting? I'm more concerned
I
about
gotta
that
start
right now,
taking
right?
rental soon
Yeah,
already.
I'm going to start collecting rental. I cannot do this for... You can go on discovering, but not on
There's a limit. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a limit. But it's not in my control, as a parent. As someone in their 20s going through that phase, it is also... For some people, they will say that it's not in my control that I haven't discovered it yet. For some of my friends, it's like, what's there to discover? There's already the track. So there's two extreme, right? And so for you, how did you went from this to this?
I don't think it's an overnight change, but I also want to correct something that you said there. I mentioned it just now. I come from a position of privilege. Privilege gives you choices. I hope my fiance will forgive me for bringing this fact out, but we met and we talked about our lives and whatnot. She came from a family that couldn't support her studies. She had to take PTPTN, and she has to pay it off when she's done. She's a lawyer now, and she's doing well for herself. But there was a stark difference to what I have to go through as a young adult and what she has to go through as a young adult. So privilege must be acknowledged. While I'm not coming from a multi-million-dollar family, but we all have different privileges, but I definitely have more than she did, and that needs to be acknowledged. People with, let's say, family support, monetarily, have the choice to make mistakes. You get what I mean? I get to try different things. If I fail lah. I still got my family to support me. The other one is no choice. You go out there, make your own money. I can't give you money anymore. So that's the reality of things. So I don't want to come off as someone who is, obviously unclear of my own privilege. I need that to be very clear. To clarify, it's not from loss, then suddenly I have a purpose, right? Even to start out my burger lab, I was lucky enough that I have saved up a little bit. I have a friend, Chang Ming, who also loaned me money to start the business with together, right? So those are privileges. Not everyone have access to that, and I want to acknowledge that. So obviously going into my burger lab, to be fair, I wouldn't say lost, but definitely, hey, this is something that I want to put in all my time, I want to put in all my focus into, but it was still an experiment. It was still a test to see whether this is the right answer or not.
I guess the name itself has that, right?
Exactly.
My burger lab is an experiment.
But all new businesses are like that. I'm quite sure when you went into...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a look, I will navigate my risks. I will only put this much amount of time, this much amount of money into this. There's always a big if. If it doesn't work out,
that's right.
Okay lah, I go back to my day job lah, whatever that is lah.
That's right.
So for me, it was still that. Yeah. But luckily, we found success. And with success came responsibility. Right. So I think I found my purpose when I saw that my team of very young individuals, some of them were going through the phases I was going through. I wanted to create a purposeful and a meaningful business that could allow for them to discover soft skills that I found in my journey. Because I think the people that needed the gap years to figure out stuff on our own, is that we needed to develop certain skill sets that we can allow for us to venture into other spaces. So I try to build Burger Lab, whereby it's not you come in here, you flip patty only. We talk about, so when we do, let's say, business decisions, today, how come people have to queue 2 hours just to get a burger? How can we do things faster? What are things that we can apply to make things better for our customers' experience? And it's not just me, Renyi, as the boss that says, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. Everyone has an input. So in that process of them giving input, they are learning, they are growing. Next, let's say the flow of the kitchen. We decided on the flow of the kitchen before we opened to serve customers. After 2 weeks, we realized some things were wrong.
Right.
You have to do double step. You have to walk here, then you have to walk back there just to do the same thing. Okay, move things around. Again, with their input.
Right.
Yeah. So again, just now I spoke. So we built different systems in the business to allow for people to grow. And that's when I found purpose, that I have the blessing of a business that is popular, that a lot of young people see, that want to patronize. And after they patronize, they want to be a part of it. A lot of our initial day workers were from the student crowd that were customers to begin with. And I wanted to make sure that when they're working with me, they walk away a better version of themselves, being more confident in themselves, being more with an understanding of who they are. And hopefully when they go out, they are able to take the soft skills that they have developed for themselves to, I guess, discover what their career path to be.
Yeah, I recall when I first spoke to a few guys who actually worked there, especially in the early days, I was actually very surprised because you don't really see many burger joints or F&B business where it is college student. And I was thinking at first, probably the nature of it is because you open right in front of Sunway, I mean, before that, yeah. But at the Sunway there, that was the time when I spoke to the younger guys. They was like, hey, it's all the students. So I was thinking it's because student. After I realized, no, they actually stay quite long. And they told me that they enjoy working there. Now that you have explained it, I think I get why. Yeah, there was this whole culture that you're building to support back the people who have gone through the phase that you've gone through.
Yeah, or potentially will go through.
Yeah, or potentially
but
will go
it's
through.
Supposed to be a supportive system that whether you needed it or not, and some people do know what they want, but they come in, again, learning certain... It's a discovery. When you're so young, you don't know how to think about certain things. And with correct guidance, it clears out those fogginess.
So now, before we go into the next part where we're going to talk about the business itself, what you've learned along the way and how do you build it up and stuff like that. Is there anything you want to say to people out there who are actually going through this phase? Like how can they, maybe a step-by-step way or a more practical manner that they can figure out and say, hey, okay, with this, there's a higher chance of me moving on to the next phase where I kind of have some sort of a purpose.
The advice would be to build an ecosystem of mentorship. So a lot of people think, right, mentorship is, you find a sifu and then, or someone, older than you. I don't think that is the case. I think mentorship is about finding people who have the experience that you are interested in.
Yeah.
So say, for example, I want to build a YouTube channel. I'll say, hey, Peter, can I be your mentee? Every once a month, you spend 1 hour for me. You tell me about how to build my own YouTube channel. And I think for someone like yourself, and I'm sure you have had help from other people, we all,
plenty of mentors, man.
Exactly, right? Whether directly or indirectly, you'll be like, yeah, I'll help you out. And in the process of you mentoring, you will also have reflection for yourself and you will also grow. So too many times people think, I have to be old enough to find a mentor. I have to have a business to find a mentor. No. If you are UPSR student, UPSR is too young. And probably don't exist anymore. It shows how old I am. Let's say you are SPM student. You want to know which college to go for. If you have a Zeze or Koko that, have gone to college already, one in Sunway, one in Taylor's, talk to them, ask them, how is it like? Right, for example. For someone like a college student or uni student that wants to graduate, that is going to graduate and deciding which company to work for, go and talk to people who are working in those companies, right? So if you have, there's always someone who knows someone.
That's right.
Right? Hey, Mami, I'm looking for someone who work in KPMG. Can you connect me? But people, it's a very, I don't know if it's an Asian thing, but
I think so.
Right? Don't dare ask, right? So if you're able to reach out, most of the time, I would say 99% of people will want to help, will want to advise.
That's right.
Because when we advise, we all sound smart. So people love giving advice.
That's true, right? That's true. There's no better voice to hear than your own voice.
Yes, exactly. So But that's not enough of a mentoring system. Okay? What a mentoring system is, you must give back. So if someone is looking after you, right, in that part of your growth and journey, you have to look after somebody.
That's
so
right.
if you have a titi or meme that is going through, I don't know what PMR or whatever it's called these days, right, or going through secondary school, right, take time to spend time with them, see what their problems are, if they have questions. You are the best person to advise because you've gone through it.
That's right. Or you're a senior at work, there's a junior
Yeah.
at work. Yeah, do the exact same thing, right?
Exactly. So in our My Burger Lab ecosystem, it's the same thing. We try to make sure that the day one that you step in, you have someone to oversee you. Meaning that, hey, this is your mentor for today. He will guide you. You got any questions, ask him. You come in, you feel secure. You feel taken care of, right? And then after 1 week, if you work with us for 1 week, you can mentor somebody else already because you know at least a little bit more than that new person. Everyone wants to feel safe, wants to feel secure at work and in life. So to anyone that wants to embark on whatever they want, right, making decisions, find someone that has that 2-3 years, not too long, 10 years, too much of a gap, 2-3 years ahead of you that have gone through it. Talk to them. They have first-hand experience.
Yeah.
And then you'll be surprised at what you learn and you make better decisions.
That's right. I have to say that for myself as well, I benefited a lot from mentors. Yeah, I'm just being very fortunate. This is where my privilege is. Although in my family, financial privilege wasn't there. But I think that gave me another set of privilege because by the time I was 18, I was not forced to think about what I should be studying. Because the only thing is go to Form 6, wait for whatever government give you after Form 6. So it's kind of like chillin'. I don't need to think about whether do I want to be a doctor ke, lawyer ke. It's just whatever I can get, I'm going to get. So there was like this very chill kind of mindset. So along the way, it's just all experiment. Naturally, it is built in that if I want to go and try waitering, I can try. I go and do call center, I can go and try. I want to do and sell things and try. And since I need money for holidays anyway, then we just go and do all sorts of odd jobs, right? So that gave me a lot of opportunity to try without the need to feel the pressure that there is a certain kind of people that I want to be. Although at one point later, when I had a long holiday, I decided to work in the church, right? Because I was thinking, hey, maybe this is my calling, right? I want to be a pastor or a missionary, stuff like that. And that also shaped my character from there to say that, hey, maybe this is a career. Now, definitely after I went to uni, my thoughts about it changed, right? Which also gave me this assurance that it is okay for your goals to change.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is another one thing that a lot of younger people have this idea. Should I be in marketing or should I be a copywriter or should I be what? Like as if, right, their whole life they're going to die as that, Yeah,
You know why? It's the parents.
Actually, yes.
It's the parents. The parents say, this is the path. I'm spending money on it. Don't change your mind, huh?
And also peer. When we look at our peers
Yep.
doing so well and we are thinking to ourselves that like, they seem to have it all together. Why do I not? Right? Yeah, so I always tell the younger guys who actually come into the office, I say that you do realize that this is not your one and only final job, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and in fact, I tell all my staff, you come here, right? If you're happy, you're going to work very long. If you're not, you'll leave very fast. And eventually one day, if you decided to leave for a better offer, you don't have to feel bad. Nothing to feel bad about because life is all about changing and growing, right? It's my responsibility to provide career growth that you look forward to. But if you don't, it's okay because that means that you are growing faster than the companies and I'm glad for you. Now, that's one thing. That gave me that privilege to do it. But on the other hand, I think in terms of mentorship, because the environment that I've grown up in and my character is a very extroverted person, I enjoy asking people stories. And my mom and dad used to grow up telling me stories about their life and their parents' story. I think this is an art that is lost, especially in the today's world.
Storytelling.
Yeah, storytelling, because we are just so focused on
Really? I feel
Facebook.
like with social media, everyone can tell a story, good or bad lah.
Yeah, but I wonder in the family, do people actually share? Because sometimes when I ask my friends, right, they don't seem to know anything about their parents. They know what's going on with Taylor Swift's life, but they have no idea whether at 19 years old, their dad or their mom had the worst heartbreak or they,
I'm one of those.
what kind of hard decisions?
I'm one of those, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. So my mom and dad told me everything, right? So that gave me that interest to find out about other people's life as well. And because of that, I actually spoke to a lot of older people. And I'll ask them, how's it like? You're a property surveyor, right? What's the work like? Can you tell me more? Then they tell me interesting story, right? then doctor.
And it's from there that you pick all these
Yeah.
little knowledge nuggets, right?
Yeah, then only you think like, do I really want to do that for my life, right? Yeah, so I would encourage those of you out there who are watching this, right? Reach out to people, talk to them. I think,
Just start from
many
within
people-
the family. You gave a very good example.
Yes,
start
that's
from
right.
within the family.
Within the family,
Yeah,
there's a lot of stories itself.
The older generation has lived a whole life before you were born.
Yes, and they're more than happy to share you because not many people will go and ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of opportunities actually comes up from there itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you actually ask questions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, thank you very much for sharing on this part. We're going to take a quick break. And after this, when we come back, we're going to talk about the business of My Burger Lab.
All right.
Hey everyone, I hope you are enjoying the content from this video. If you enjoy content that can help you make better decisions in money and life, well, check out our other channels here as well. So Renyi, My Burger Lab. I understand that the My, that just now when you mentioned it, is not My as in Malaysia. I always thought it's Malaysia, like Malaysia Burger Lab.
No,
like,
it's not.
So how do you come up with this name and what's the meaning behind each word?
So let's start with the word burger. I wanted to give myself no chance of escaping selling burgers because I learned that before we started the business that in F&B, most people will start selling one thing. Let's say it doesn't do well, they start selling other things. So one of the philosophy that I've learned through a book, I forgot what the book was and I read this so long ago, was to pick a niche and focus on it and excel at it. So I wanted us to have no choice but to sell burger and burger only. So the word burger must be there. Then the second part was actually the word lab. Due to the nature of how we discovered our recipe, which is through culinary science, we were experimenting a lot in the early days. Adding too much egg, what will happen to the bun? Taking out too much water, what will happen to the fluffiness of the bun? So we saw it as a formula more than a recipe, right? So by that nature, we wanted the word lab there. We were experimental. And that did well for us because later on, we became experimental in all aspects of our business. Whether it was marketing, whether it was HR, whether it's finance. Okay, maybe not experimental in finance, but we were, we have this curiosity in mind.
Funky recipes.
Yeah, exactly. And then finally, the word "my," as you mentioned it, it was more of a psychological touch. It happened because of one of my friend's brand called Espresso Lab. It's still around.
Yep.
Back in the days, Facebook had this weird thing whereby you cannot have the same two business name existing on Facebook. Now these days you can, right? So for them to use the word Espresso Lab, they needed to put the word "my" there, and for them it meant Malaysia. So it was My Espresso Lab. But a psychological effect that I saw through my friend at that time was that, hey, let's go My Espresso Lab. She loves it a lot, so we will always go there and visit it. But she said it so often to the point where people were questioning, hey, is it yours?
That's true.
Right? Then I thought, oh my gosh, I really like that part. I really like that psychological benefit that when people say it is theirs, because I wanted to build a brand that doesn't belong to myself only, but belongs to the staff and belongs to the customer. So if you work at My Burger Lab, it's your Burger Lab. If you come and patronize at My Burger Lab, it is your Burger Lab. And in the ethos of ownership, I want everyone to have a say in it. Of course, not every single individual, but as a group. If enough customers say, hey, look, we want a spicy burger, I'll give you a spicy burger. If enough customers say, hey, your service here is not good, you need to buck up, then we will buck up, right? So that's how the word My Burger Lab came to be.
Right. Well, now that you say it, and after our conversation in the first part of it, you kind of built this whole thing like an engineer. You're just looking at the different components of things that's needed to run that F&B business. From number one, yes, a lot of F&B business, when they diverse too much, they forget about brand, and that's how they are not being known for. And most of the brands who became very popular are known for one thing that they're good at. Yeah. So by having the right formula, which is sticking to a niche, it's in your name. Number two, the marketing part, some sort of an emotional connection, because food is an emotional sale, actually, right? Yeah, and you also inserted that in, and the whole idea about lab, staying true to the whole identity of experimenting around and evolving, you also put that in. So it's kind of like, I guess, unconsciously, a lot of the trainings that you had, selling hotel packages, to doing different kind of jobs over those years, kind of came together.
They came together, yeah.
And helped you to build this business.
Yeah. It was upon reflection, I think 6 months into the business, that I realized, hey, all these skill set, where did it come from? Because people wanted to talk to us because we found success so early, and newspaper wanted to talk to us, and it was through the interviews that people ask, hey, what do you do? I said, I didn't do anything before this. Nothing notable. Then I realized, oh, it's not. It's all these small things that I did that I was developing soft skill sets that helped me in my business at that point in time.
Right. So here's the time that I share with you a little bit of my story of what I first heard about my Burger Lab when it first came out.
Okay.
Yeah, which I've not really tell anyone. But when you first started my Burger Lab, I remember I just graduated not too long, 2012, because I went to the whole local university system. And I heard that it was started by a few uni guys.
Not
that's,
untrue to some extent.
Not untrue to some extent, yeah. Now that I think about it, not untrue to some extent. I was shocked because, we saw a shop in Taman C and it did well. People started coming in and stuff like that. And I asked myself, wow, how did few young chiku who are fresh grad, come out straight away, start business? And the time startup wasn't like that popular yet, right? It was still a crazy thing for people to say that at the moment I'm fresh grad, I go and start business. That time is still come out and work for people right? If you go and start a business, you're a bit xiao one.
Or rich kids. That's what we got labeled as well.
Yeah, so then I was thinking of myself, right? These guys must be some rich kids who have a lot of money, don't really care, parents are pocket, whatever. They threw their money and start the business. So actually, what was it really like? Like, did you just okay, we all have some money, our parents can support, so let's throw it in, let's make this an experiment? Or what were those deciding factors that made you all decide, okay, we're going to go full on in despite of the risk?
I think rich kids, I would have to dispel that myth to begin with. We are all from, I think, at best, M40 families lah. Okay, can get by lah, right? Healthy, we get what we want lah, no problem. But coming in to the business, we all knew we were happy to take that amount of risk, capital-wise, and no more. If we lose it, then it's back to day jobs lah. Because we understood that the survivability of F&B is tough. So, sorry, if you may remind me, what's your original question?
So what gave you the confidence to put this capital at risk? Because starting a shop, no matter what, you're talking about a few 100,000.
Yeah, 250,000 for us at this point. At that point.
Maybe let's start with, how do you get the 250,000? Was it your own savings? Was it parent support? What was it like?
So, between the three of us partners, like I said, we were able to pull up about 190,000. Right.
And that time you already kind of work a little bit here and there as well, right?
So thankfully, Chang Ming, who was the partner in the business, was also able to front half of my capital. And then we put in his money and then a little bit of my own lah. That's how we came to be lah. And then the rest were friends who came to try during our R&D period, and we say, hey, look, we're looking for shareholders. Anyone wants in lah. So even 5,000 we also take. Yeah. So then we pull up a total.
Wow, the 5,000 one, very happy, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes and no. Today he's our chief operation officer. He stuck with us from day one lah. So, and that's Andrew. So together seven of us, we had 250,000 capital. That was how we began. Yeah, and that was all the money we have. If it failed, it would have failed. No one was going to put in more money.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I did share one part of my story in another episode, whereby out of the 250,000, 200 went to building the store, from renovations to the equipments, everything lah. All right, pakaliao. We had 50,000 capital to run the store, as they call CAPEX lah. No, OPEX, operational expenditure.
Yeah.
Right. So in hindsight, that was so dangerous. If we didn't go viral, and we had average sales, and we weren't making money, which most restaurants do. The first 6 months, right, is finding customers. Not every day hoi chong, then suddenly a queue outside the door. And so we were lucky, and thankfully we were able to roll from that. So that was how we started. So to those who ask, we are all to some extent privileged, right, that we are able to start a business like that. But what gave us the confidence? Very naive. Naivete. That would be the answer. Honestly, like, we were hopeful, I would say, but we were very naive to what F&B is. Given the knowledge we have today, would I start that way again? The answer is 100% no. It's going to be a total failure. There's a 99% chance of failure. We somehow hit that 1%. Maybe because we had good circles of friends of support. Maybe because we were lucky that certain friends shared on their Facebook, and a few notable individuals saw and they came to support, notably Eat Drink KL. and also the Star also came to write about us, and they gave us a 3-pager colored page on the Star, and back in the day that was a huge deal, and that's how we blew up. So luck, I would have to say, was a huge factor, but thankfully we had the food to back it up lah. If it was just luck but bad food, then it wouldn't have been a.
That's right.
Yeah, but also timing was right. The stars aligned. It was the period where 3G was introduced affordably to everyone, so people were able to take picture and post immediately.
That's right.
If you remember back in the days, and this is to you kids on how lucky you are these days, we have to take picture, go to somewhere with Wi-Fi, and then only can upload.
That's right. These
days you take a picture, you upload immediately.
Yes.
Right. So it was a time where people started doing OOTD.
Yes.
Right. These days it's not even a thing anymore. And of course, what food you were eating. So that was it was a trend, a starting trend at the time.
Right.
And because our burgers were so uniquely colored, and the place was just full of energy, so packed with people, and it was just good content that was just spread like wildfire.
Yes.
Our viral stage actually lasted for 2 years. These days, I think restaurants, if they viral first 2-3 months, okay lah. Then after that, they will plateau a little bit.
Do you know the first 2 years, I only talked about going on my burger lab. I haven't
Never went, right?
The only time
every time
that
you go
I went,
there, I still got queue.
was after that queue ended. Because every time I go there, the long queue, I'll just look at my friend and I say, it's going to be a waste of my time. And you're not talking about
Can't be
short
that
queue,
good lah.
It's like that long queue, and the time no food delivery, nothing. So it's like super long queue. Then me and my friend look at each other. Never mind, it's okay.
Not today.
It's okay. We'll just go boom boom or something.
Yeah.
The time, I still remember. So the only time that I started having it was when you guys already expanded.
Yes.
You guys had a branch in Sunway,
Yes.
stuff like that. Only I started going. Having said that, definitely when we start a business, there's a lot of naivety. I guess for myself as well, it was being naive, right? Starting a YouTube channel, right timing. There are certain good decisions that we've made, but there's also a lot of luck, I would say, or blessing, depend on what is it, right? Now, but I believe there are certain things that you did to kind of give yourself certain evidence that this could be a success, right? Like maybe food testing with your friends, something like that. What are some of those factual things that you did that gave you that confidence?
So we gave a very good idea, because I was working at Red Bean Bag at that time. This is early 2012. And he said, hey, the restaurant that you're working at as a barista is not open at night. Why don't we rent their space to do a pop-up? And that's exactly what we did. We did about 10 to 15 sessions, and we took people's data, meaning not name and address all those, but what their feedback on the product is, so that we wanted to craft the product where as long as out of 10 people, 7 to 8 said that they like it, we have a winning recipe. So that was the goal. So thanks to our science background, we were able to, tabulate the data that we needed to figure out what people were looking for in their burgers. So by the 7 or 8 tests, people were like, oh my God, this burger is so good. I've not had anything like this before. So we hit the right spot. The bun, the patty, the cheese, the sauces were things that people have not had in KL. Then came the, I would say, magic secret ingredient, which is the charcoal bun. If you look back at our original testing, the first 7 sessions, they were all regular potato buns, the yellow-brown color one. I had the bright idea of, there's other people doing black color loaf in Japan. What if we change ours to black color?
Yep.
It's more, attractive. Or at least, actually, sorry, there's another story before that. We were toasting our buns, the normal potato bun, and I over toasted it. It became black color. But I built it out of curiosity. It looked good. The combination of black, yellow, red, and whatnot. Then I accidentally found the charcoal loaf, and I said, oh, it's a powder. We just add it into our recipe and see whether it works or not. So when we served it to our first batch of customers, they took a picture and posted it on Facebook. And we saw the likes. Again, at that time, 30, 40 likes is damn a lot. Okay?
Yeah, you made black buns popular. I still remember.
I think we made black everything popular. It was after us that we have like what, charcoal toothpaste, charcoal pillow. I don't know if it made a difference or not.
Yes.
But it was that phase that I think it kind of grew. But anyway, what gave us confidence was people were responding to it. There was something about that charcoal colored product that piqued people's interest. And that honestly gave us a lot of confidence. It was also the time when I think social media, not just Facebook, and back in the days, just Facebook and Instagram, were able to give a business a live feedback. Last time, if there's no Facebook and Instagram, how do you know people know about you? But when we could see the metrics where last week we only had 100 followers, and these are all our friends. Out of the three of us, we have these 100 friends that follow us on Facebook. And 1 week later, it's 500. And the next week after, it's 1,000 plus. To us, that was unimaginable. And with that, we were like, okay, these people are not just followers, but they're interacting. We post something, hey, when? I want to come and try. Now that I'm thinking back, that was where we got the confidence.
Right. So it was a combination of all these hard facts that you guys built, right? Which is on experiment. Yeah. I think it's very much like how startup build things, right? MVP, product testing. And that's where the benefit of it, that you guys are actually more of a science background people. I've seen a lot of food guys who actually go out there and then they try to test their product, but with not a very systematic approach, and also at the same time they forget about this experimenting part. They just, my friends and family tested and they say it's good. Then go out, right? And then when people tell them it's not good, because you don't like anymore. So it's like sometimes I wonder why you let people test food, right?
But part of it is also storytelling. Part of it was storytelling. Whether we knew what we were doing, I think these days everyone know, hey, you want to put your brand out there, you need to do good storytelling. And a lot of influencers do a good job of that. But back then, we were being ourselves. Facebook 12 years ago was a very different platform.
Yes.
Businesses was very uptight one. No making jokes, no whatever. And you don't see the GSC admins of today, right? But I think we were one of the first few that was just joking and being very transparent with what we do. We were showing behind the scenes of stupid stuff that we were doing. And I think people resonated with that. If I have to give an example, recently there's this bagel shop that has gone viral and is doing very well. Grumpy Bagels. Have you heard of them? There's this owner. I think she's a bit of an influencer herself. So she was showing the behind the scene of how she took an old bungalow. She and I think boyfriend or husband transformed it. And the stages behind it. So before she even opened, she already had a huge following. But she told the story in a way where, hey, if I wanted a dream cafe, this is how I can imagine myself being. She did it in such a good way where people were resonating with her. So that gave me a bit of reflection of how we started. We didn't do videos. We were, back in the days, it was just photos. It was, again, back in the days when we were reading blogs. Yeah. It's all blogs and whatnot. So we just read. But telling those stories made people resonated with our journey. These days, I think obviously it's the same formula. Other people have found success by telling stories of their journey before they even launch. So when they launch, it's full house. Yep.
You were one of the first few guys who actually came out with a very viral marketing strategy that actually made people queue up for 2 years.
Which one?
I still recall. The whole Chaco Bun thing, how it sparked the whole thing. And then for a very long time, it was My Burger Lab that dominated the artisan burger scene in Malaysia. Right? Now, so going from there, starting the first business, now you really have a business.
Yeah.
I guess reality sits in, right? Now it's no more just fun making burger and everything. There's people to manage, there's money to manage, there is a whole bunch of stuff and customer complaints, all these kind of things, right? So how was it like? Did you then only realize like, this is quite a lot to manage? Yeah. So what was it like for you from that guy experimenting, starting a business without really knowing what is it all about, then now having to adapt and learn along the way? How was this whole journey like?
Yeah, but again, I think the way you describe it is as if it's an overnight transformation. It's not. Life is not white and black. It's a lot of different scale of grey, right? So same with, I think, individual growth. One thing that I will always attribute to my own personal growth, I can't speak for my other partners, as I think their stages of growth are different. For me personally, I'm very thankful that I was trained as an engineer. So why I say that is because engineers, I believe we have this thing called the engineer's eye. We look for problem one. This table like that, is the weight distribution correct or not? Can I better design it so that the weight distribution is better and it's more, and so forth. So in the business, I have the same set of sights. I'm always looking for problem to fix. So to me, whenever I am presented a problem, I am very excited about it. I'm like, got problem. Means that. Because the worst thing about growing, right, is when you don't know what the problem is. You cannot fix what you don't know. But if the problem is there or you discover a problem, means that if you fix it, you become better.
Yeah.
So I've always seen my journey as when new problems are being presented, it's a good thing. I forgot what that book, that Mark Mason,
Yes.
and I've mentioned it before. You trade for better problems as you grow in life. And I think it's something that all of us sometimes forget to see. We're like, remember when you're younger, you want to be an adult and you go like, studying sucks, going for exams sucks, right? But when you're out of it, you trade for other problems, right? Whether it's a terrible boss or, bad clients and so forth. But you're in a position that is better than when you were in school. Now you have more freedom. You can buy whatever the hell you want if you want to, right? So, as an entrepreneur, I think my journey is the same as well. Last time I worry about, what if my trend dies? What if after one shop I grow second shop, nobody wants to come? Now we are 10 shop large and people are still coming. Okay, it's no longer a problem I had to worry about. Now I have bigger problems to worry about, which is, okay, how do I maintain the business? How do I scale it? How do I grow people? How do I keep my quality and my service at a par level that we're happy with? But it's new challenges. I always tell my team, no matter how many shops we open, the next one that we open is the first of that shop. Meaning that now I have 10, right? When I open 11 is the first 11. When I open 12 is the first 12. Meaning that it will present its own problem. Don't think that just because you have 10 stores, I open 20 stores, it's not a problem. Every new step will have its own challenges. And once you expect that, right, then I think work becomes more manageable. Because a lot of times people are like, how come like that one? How come there's a new surprise of a problem? But if you already expect the problem and say that, hey, look, there will be problems, then your mindset is towards growth. It's towards solving the problem. So my team, I generally try to train them with that mindset, that they are not surprised by problems, but they welcome it. And with the mindset of fixing the problem so that it doesn't occur again. If you fix the problem and it comes back again, that means you didn't fix it the first time. You only put a band-aid over it. So that's the mindset that we're trying to develop in terms of engaging with problems or challenges.
Right. So you mentioned that all these are definitely not overnight and it took time for you to learn. And at each stage of the company, you were presented with a different problem, right? So maybe we can sum it up a little bit, right? Over this whole journey, from that one store to now 10 stores, what are some of the most significant problems that you have faced that shape the way you manage this business?
If I had to pinpoint at one thing that is almost consistent as a problem, is people. From the customer's aspect and from the team aspect. The team will grow, and people that join you in their early 20s, 6 years, 7 years in, they suddenly at a stage in their life where they want to start a family. Priorities change. It's not a problem, but it's definitely, as an entrepreneur, you need to address it. Last time, we didn't have to worry about maternity leave because everyone was young, no one was getting pregnant. These days, within our team, there are people who are, starting a family, and maternity leave became, I wouldn't say a problem, but something that we have to talk about.
Address,
Because the person is gone for 2-3 months, we have to pay them salary. Who's doing the work? Do we hire somebody else? If it's a female employee, right? And these are things that it's a challenge that we have to navigate through. So I think in the team, as people grow, we need to adapt, and different challenges and problems will pop up. Customers also the same. As we grow as a business, we need to make changes, whether it's policy changes, whether it's product changes even. One example is we have transitioned to a halal brand in the last 3 years. And not to say that we were using any non-halal products, but as you transition, there are things that you need to do, suppliers that you need to work with to ensure that as you move forward, you remain a halal brand. It's more stringent, that process. So when you change that, flavors will change a bit. No choice one, it will run one. Okay? Then customers will say, you no longer taste the same again. And how do you address that? But I've also learned that, you know what? Every customer have a life cycle. I will lose some customers. Last time to me, losing a customer is like, I cannot take it, right? You must stay with me forever. We lost so many customers in 2021 because of us changing recipes and addressing post-pandemic issues. I thought I was going to close down my business. But we put up our marketing campaign and we attracted a new group of customers. There's always new customers. The market is so big that it's a bottomless sea.
That's right.
Yeah. So problems-wise, consistent one is always managing people. And as a business, we need to understand our people, both from the client side and from the internal side. And once you're able to manage that, everything else is not even that big of a problem. Right? You open new shop, get funding lah. If you need approval, go and find JPJ or MPPJ to go and fix those problems. I get the certs and all. But people is the ever-changing constant. Yeah, it's the only constant that is ever changing, if that makes sense.
Totally understand. Now, we are talking about 3 group of people here. The first 2 group is the one that you mentioned, the customer.
Yep.
The second one is your team.
Yep.
And I guess the third one is the one that's closest to you, shareholders.
Yes.
Before we go into the next section where we're going to talk about managing shareholders, managing investors, the inner circle kind of management. For these first 2, what are some of the challenge that is in terms of managing these people, that you see it as a consistent thing that come back, or what are some of the most exciting challenge? Like, I think recently, the most exciting challenge for most F&B owners is the rising costs and customer expectation and adjusting the price, right? Yeah, and then for team, what is it like? So maybe you can share with us a little bit more in detail, something that's more recent and some of the struggles or stuff like that.
Let's talk about the one point, which is the rising costs. How do we manage customers so that they are okay when we adjust our costs? At one point, I was so afraid to change my price. I was like, if I increase RM1, my customers will be angry at me. And I waited and waited and waited. What was I waiting for? I was waiting for everybody else to change their price first. But I realized that I didn't have to do that. Because for the survivability of the business, I have to put my business first, right? And I should have changed the price and give proper explanation on why we're doing it. So once we change the price, right? In fact, as long as we maintain the level of service, we maintain the level of quality of product, people don't mind. People these days are okay if you raise your price, either you become better or you maintain.
That's right.
The worst is you raise price and then drop standard lah. So that is something that I felt the team did very well in managing that. The other one is, I think this one would be more of a failure story. In the last 1 year, we have not been managing the business value and culture well. Our focus was expanding. Our focus was, again, sales, very sales driven. And some of the systems broke down. And when the people who are working no longer feels there's a purpose, flipping burger is not a purpose. A purpose-driven business should be a team that feels like, hey, we're coming here to make people's life better, make my teammates' life better, make my customers' life better. We're serving them to make them be happy. That's a purpose that I come in because of that. But if that is not there, then you will have a team that is very disconnected, very disjointed. So we have a lot of turnover. I'm sad to say it. I'm not proud to admit it, but it is a problem we're facing. But we're fixing it. We're happy to acknowledge that we let some things go. We can't handle everything at the same time, and it's a failure that we will be fixing. So hopefully in the next 6 months you will see a Burger Lab that is more vibrant, that's more energetic, as it was in the glory days, as you call it. But not to say that currently Burger Lab, if you go in, is like dreary or whatnot. The team is still doing a very good job. I have to give them that credit. But it's not as shiny as it was before. And so we are at 90%. To finish that last 10%, right, requires another 80% of work.
That extra secret sauce.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that takes so much effort.
That's right.
But I believe we are that brand. I think we are that brand to represent Malaysia, to say that, hey, look, hospitality is a part of... When I say hospitality, I don't mean... When I say hospitality, I mean that desire to make your customers be happy, not because it's a job. Yeah. And in Malaysia, unfortunately, it's not something that you see very often. There are restaurants with good hospitality, no doubt about that, but you have to pay certain pricing to get that service. Right. But in a tourist-driven industry like Thailand or Taiwan, like everywhere you see, everyone is very hospitable, very glad that you're there and whatnot. But Malaysia is not there. It's like as if we will only do it if we're paid the right price to do it.
You go Mama store, it's like you owe them money more like they're there.
But I feel like Mama store actually do a very good job. I always use Mama store as a comparison to my team. I say, you go Mama store often enough, right? They remember what you order, right? That's hospitality. Some lah. At least the one that we go to near Sipak does a.
The one that I go to stare at me like,
you, like faster order lah.
Hey, yeah, like.
Then why you go back?
Cause near finish my food.
So we're very forgiving people, but I think for me and my team, we want to show that in Malaysia, a fast food joint can offer an international standard hospitality. Yeah. We have the right, formula to do it. We just need to put the effort to it.
So having said that, I have to give you the credit for actually acknowledging those things, because the truth is, many entrepreneurs that I speak to, bosses, this is one part that they will never admit.
Oh, is it?
They will not even see it, especially when their chains grow bigger. Everything's fine down there. Huh? Got problem? I don't see also. Yeah. Oh, they all got problem. Yeah, very normal and this one. Yeah, I think
Maybe not acknowledge it openly.
yeah. So there not many are really willing to acknowledge that. And number two, they're also the kind of entrepreneurs who I would say are less sensitive about these kind of things. They don't see it as something necessary. Yeah, but I personally think that this is the part that makes the difference between a 5-star Hyatt hotel versus a lower price hotel. It is not so much of the facility, but the people within there that gives you the service, especially in the service industry. Yeah, if you're a factory, that's a whole different story altogether. But if you're in the service industry, I think this is what sets it apart. Yeah. So for yourself, when it comes to that, is there any plans or is there any ways that you think is the best to actually maintain a culture or build a culture of a business? And how important is it? Because I believe there are many entrepreneurs out there who actually don't think that it's that important because they think that, I can do, other people come in and support me anymore. So what matters is my main team. Or either there are some of them who think that as long as you pay them money, they do their job, it's fine. But I always think that if you want to innovate your company, you need the extra juice. Yeah. So maybe you can share a little bit on that.
I don't know if it's important to everyone because I cannot impose that train of thought to all business owners. If you don't believe in it, you don't believe in it. There's no way I can convince you that it's important that you will go and do it because it's not in your DNA. Unless you hire someone to do it lah. And there are people, and this is a term that I recently discovered, I didn't even know that it exists. It's a culturalist. Someone in the business that maintains and enhances the work culture. But where do they get this culture from? It must be from the very top. So I always see myself as the point of ignition for our brand DNA. What I believe in, what I want my team to feel, it should come from me. Again, the last 1-2 years, my focus has been elsewhere. I assume that the culture I've built can sustain on its own. That's why my admittance is that, I need to step in and continue to rebuild on that lah. Myself is one, I can't do everything. I need a team of people who also believe in it, that also have felt it, have gone through it to help rebuild on that part. But the founder must know what the culture that he wants to begin with. If you don't know, you ask somebody to you hire somebody to come and do the job, they will put their culture in. No? There's no such thing as this is the right culture for F&B, everyone should have it. It's what you believe in.
Yeah.
Right. But fundamentally, to run an F&B business, you don't need culture. You don't need to, at least in Malaysia. Why? Sometimes we find Malaysia saying, hey, that jiok fan is extra tasty because the uncle is always very angry one. Always scolding me.
I guess that's the culture. Yeah, if you stop scolding people, then maybe less people go.
Again, I feel like we don't expect much from our F&B people.
Yeah, that's true.
Again, if F&B people wants to be respected, they have to show some level of professionalism. For me, I hope that given Burger Lab, my Burger Lab is a brand that, to some extent is widely known. And if we can set an example and we can be a benchmark for more brands to hopefully inspire and do their own thing, that the whole F&B scene is thriving and people want to come here, people want to continue to support because it's such a positive experience to go out dining. And it's not something that you only get because you go fine dining or a bit more atas place. So I want to show that, it to be shown that it can be done on a lower end scale. But that being said, my pricing is going up, so I also have to say, but I tell my team, because they ask me, how come we don't charge service charge? I say, good service should be free. Not because you get paid, hence you want to give good service. Yeah. So that's how we're moving forward. And I think that for other brands, if you believe it's something that you want, then you need to be the source of ignition of that brand DNA, brand culture. Yeah.
In terms of pricing wise, as a consumer, I have to say that as long as the quality is maintained, portions are maintained, we are definitely more than happy to just pay. In fact, sometimes I would even pay a little bit more, whether there's tip or whatnot, if I see it being maintained. I'll bring friends because I think there are too many people in the market that actually increases the price and then reduces their portion and reduces their quality, right? Which actually makes me angry. And those are the shops that I don't go back usually after that. I think another part of it is the tipping part, like service charge thing, because there are a lot local players who actually, when they charge service charge, that service charge doesn't go to share with the staff.
That's actually illegal.
Yeah, which I feel really, really unfair for the workers. So sometimes I'll purposely ask them. I say, hey, so you dapat lah itu? Then they say, huh? Then I'm like, oh, I don't go back. Because I feel like you just cheated your staff money. That's how I feel about it, right? And I thought about it, like the US system where they ask you to tip, right? Yeah, and a lot of the waiters' wages are large chunk coming from tipping. Not so much of a Malaysia culture, but
that's also a very broken system, to be fair.
Yes, there's a broken system there. But I think there can be some sort of a hybrid thing going on, right? But that's a conversation for another time. Now, thank you very much for sharing. We're going to take a quick break. And later when we come back, we're going to talk about relationship with the inner circle. Which are stakeholders, investors, and also shareholders. And I guess sooner or later, there's going to be a new addition, which is someone closer to you, and how would that change the dynamic? Alright, talking about great offers, there's a fantastic deal for all investors, whether you're a beginner or a seasoned pro. To celebrate Moomoo Malaysia's launch in Malaysia, they're offering 0% commission fees for the first 6 months to new user. But even without this special, their usual rate is just 99 cents USD plus 0.03% of the trade value for trading in the US market, and 3 ringgit plus 0.03% of the trade value for trading in the Malaysian market. These an incredible opportunity that you shouldn't pass up. Besides their ability to trade both US stock and Malaysia stock on one platform, Moomoo's platform features cater to both novice and experienced traders. It's more than just a trading app. It's a tool for research and uncovering new investment opportunities. I personally enjoy using their industry chain feature, which gives you a complete perspective on the value chain from upstream to downstream, helping you to identify the potential investment opportunities within specific industry. Now, having used Moomoo for a while now, it's evident that they're not just another trading platform, but they aim to revolutionize how we trade in Malaysia. With super low fees and right now at 0% commission for the first 6 months, well, it's an obvious decision. And a host of all these innovative features for you to look for investment opportunity. And lastly, the assurance of being regulated by Security Commission. It's just like what they say, Moomoo represents not just a choice, but the future of trading at our fingertips. Alright, enough about them, and now let's get back to our video. I understand that you started My Burger Lab with 7 people in total, 3 plus 4.
Yes.
Right? And today, it's no more 7 people. So how many people are left in this?
3. Me, Karthik, and Andrew.
So Karthik was one of the original guys as well?
Karthik is the new, is the investor.
So the original guys only left 2?
Yes, that's correct. Me and Andrew.
So this whole journey, right, from getting together, best of friends. I mean, I have co-founders with me, and I know how close it gets because you see them more than you see your family. You share with them the deepest things, even more than your family, because it's all about business anyway in life. How was it like for you, right, throughout that whole journey, and then eventually decided to just move apart? Let's start by talking about the feeling. Do you ever feel like something just went missing, or how was it like? Is there any regretfulness or any like why did it turn up to like that? Or like yeah, great.
So I think I need to paint a better picture of the dynamic. So Chameng and Wicket didn't know each other. I know both of them very well, very closely, and I was the one that kind of convinced both of them to join us in this journey lah. The thing about the 3 of us is all 3 of us are introverts, and because we see each other every day, I think the friendship started growing apart as the years went by. Right. Not that we were lesser friends, but we didn't want to see each other outside of work because we were seeing each other so much. But of course, there were also business decision differences that we would sometimes, argue over. So the first one to actually step out from the business was Wicket. I believe it was 4 years or 5 years into the business, or maybe shorter than that, that Wicket said he wants to take a step back. At the time, I was the one that was arguing with him the most. Not like bang table argue, but like just, hey, I want to do this. No, cannot. And the crazy thing was that I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the back and forth. To me, that was progress.
Yeah.
I want this, you want this. Okay, we slowly move towards a middle ground. I don't think he enjoyed it, given his nature. He's a very peaceful, easygoing guy lah, for the most part. And he also wanted to pursue other things as well. He was the first one to step out of the business, but he still had shares. Nothing changed, right? And occasionally he'll still help out, give it back here and there. to me, that was actually okay. I felt a bit empty because I had no one to kind of bounce off ideas.
Banter with.
Yeah. So he was the finance guy. I was the culture guy. So a lot of what I want to do is give the team a lot of freebies, give the customers a lot of freebies. And then he's like holding the money tight, which is rightly so, his job. But to me, I was like, oh, if you want to build loyalty and this and that, we need to give some free stuff here in exchange of this and that. So anyway, I started doing that internal battle in my head. I had to be the numbers guy and also the marketing guy as well. That has gone on up until 2020. And Changming, for the most part, he's also very easygoing guy. Whatever I want to do, he would just agree to it and move forward. But that became, I think now in hindsight, that became a very bad structure to be in. I started taking for granted my decision making, meaning that whatever I decided, I didn't run through them because they were already okay with what I've decided.
Right.
So I've always felt like whatever I decide for the company is for the best of the company. They will be okay with it. But I didn't know that there was a lot of dissatisfaction, especially on Changming's side, until I think the pandemic period, where I forgot what it was that triggered it, but he said, I want out basically.
So did it just came suddenly for you at the point, like, or was there any hints before that?
No, I mean, there were things that would, every 1-2 years, we would have a chat about certain things that we're not happy with. But that was that But the pandemic was, I guess it shone a spotlight on how frail our relationship already was.
Right.
Yeah, I won't get into the details, but I can only say that I did what I believe was the best for the company at that point in time. And upon hindsight, I still believe that that's what I did, but I didn't consider his feelings. I think that was where I failed at. It wasn't like overnight the relationship strained and we weren't talking anymore. To be fair, we already weren't talking for quite a bit. The pandemic basically just shown how weak the relationship was.
Right.
So when the decision to part, or the announcement to part came, I guess all parties were to some extent relieved that we were on that process of going our own way. But that being said, I also need to make it very clear that at that time, only Changming and 2 other individuals wanted to depart. Wicket and another Alvin wanted to stay on and continue to support the business. So they have no intention of selling. It was towards the end when things were really hitting the wall, when the new investor came in, Lotus Capital came in, that the request was he wants to buy out everyone that was non-active, which I think was a right
Standard
call.
Standard, yeah.
And that's how things came to an end. So I do still thank Wicket and Alvin for supporting us all the way to the end and agreeing with that decision, because if they didn't agree with that decision, then who knows, that deal wouldn't have gone through and Burger Lab I wouldn't be sitting here today. Yeah. And as for Changming and Liren and Yen, they also tried their best to do what's best for the company and also to protect themselves. So I see that now, but at the time I had a very different thought. I saw it from, it was me versus them. Yeah. So these are things that I wished in the beginning we had the foresight to talk about, to say when we want to part, how were we going to go about it? But again, if under normal circumstances, maybe it would have been different. But during the pandemic, everyone was so highly strung, everyone was so stressed out. So I think, I can't speak for them, but myself, I definitely didn't address the issue with sensitivity. Yeah.
Now looking back at it, I remember in one of your podcasts, you did mention that you wish that you guys would have ironed out a clearer shareholder agreement. Yes. I do not know whether that was in existence or not.
It was not.
That was not in existence. And I guess another part of it that I have an observation of is that there was a lack of communication along the way. Yeah. But let's first talk about that shareholder agreement, right? Why would you wish that there's a shareholder agreement? And if let's say there's a shareholder agreement, what would you encourage other people to think about to put in? Because we have heard this term a lot, but for a lot of people, it's like, shareholder agreement. What to put in, Yeah, that's the main thing, right? So, having gone through this whole thing, now that you look back, if you were to redo this shareholder agreement, which I'm pretty sure that right now you have it, what are some of the points that must be included in your opinion?
Depends on the dynamic, right? And I don't think that, number one, I don't want it to be said that, oh, this is the only way to do a shareholders agreement. There's 1,001 ways, depending on the dynamics of every individual and who is contributing what. Given my scenario, if I may use it as a point of reference, is that I wish that if we were going to throw out price evaluation of what the business is worth, and if somebody says, hey, look, it's worth, for the sake of argument, 1 million ringgit, okay? And the rest don't believe it's worth 1 million ringgit. They believe it's worth less, okay? That the other person buy everyone else at their valuation because you believe it's that amount. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Because you put too high of a value, right? Then you buy everyone out at the value because you believe it's worth that. Because we didn't have that, so there was a lot of back and forth. I said, hey, you think it's worth 1 million? I don't think it is. Then you buy me at 1 million. Or even lesser. I offer 900,000, let's say right? In theory, you should buy me out even at a lower price because you can gain from it. Yeah, so that was one thing that I wish we could have put in place so that people don't simply throw out number. Why do you think it's worth that much? Because I feel so. And that becomes very frustrating.
Yes, I think I've heard of cases where like they get random numbers, like for example partners when they want to split apart, then someone just come in and then say this, let's say a random number, 100 million. Then the owners themselves are like, huh? Are you sure 100 million? Where you get this number from? And then when they part ways, right, when argument get hit up, they say this was worth 100 million. You should pay me 50 million. Then where on earth this number come from, right? Yeah, I understand where you come from. Yeah. So for those of you who are thinking about shareholder agreement in terms of exit, I think this is definitely one thing that you want to think about in terms of parting ways, right? I guess on the other hand, I also want to ask this question, which is for that period of time, right? On the hindsight now that you look back, what would you have done to say prevent this from happening, or either to at least, even if there was a parting away, it is not in a bad note, but rather it's a, hey, great, go and pursue what you want. Like it's a great blessing kind of thing, right? So what would you have done differently?
Honestly, I don't have an answer to that. The reason is because it was a period where I felt like investors were looking for cheap buys. They were not looking at, because everyone's valuation was down the drain. You cannot use pre-pandemic numbers as a justification of your valuation. Investors will say, hey, but after pandemic, what will happen? So most of the investors we spoke to were going to downplay the numbers.
Yes.
So given your question, the only thing that I can answer is I feel like what I would have done differently over the years is I would have communicated better and not see myself as the hero of the business. To some extent, I did. There was some level of complex because I was managing the business. I was finding success within the business. So of course, at the back of my head is, the business can't do without me and you guys need me right? I by no means I'm a outspoken egotistical person, but even as someone who is more introverted, I do feel good that I am a reliable individual in the company But I let that persona trumped the respect I should have given my partners and be more communicative in what I plan to do for the company. I just did it because I assumed that they were okay with it.
Right.
But resentment grew over time, and I think that was what led to frustration on their end to say, you know what, enough is enough. You think you run the show, you go and run the show.
Right. So when I was asking you the question, I was actually more pointed towards like the relationship part between shareholders and everything. Because I myself run a company with some shareholders here, right? So what would you have done differently to improve that relationship, to be specific?
What I would have done differently was, number one, put down clearly what everyone's role was. So that individuals like myself can be given, I don't have to report everything. I'm also very lazy to report everything. So if I'm given the veto power to make certain decisions, then I will just update as per once a month or once a quarter, right? But we didn't meet up enough and report what was going on, what were the decisions made. So if I were to change, more constant in contact, proper AGM style updates. Of course, occasionally, this month we go out yam cha and chit chat over the numbers and what are the progress. I think that would have been nice as well. But again, over the years, because we slowly grew apart and we didn't want to acknowledge it, and myself specifically, it came to a point where it was just difficult to even say you want to go yam cha or not lah. Yeah. So before, or if anyone notices that there are small cracks within the working relationship, it's best to address it openly and as quickly as possible. If you're doing it constantly, then that's good. So for my Pizza Lab, for example, Jared, no matter what, every month he will host an update, and everyone will just voice out whatever that they are that's on their mind lah. So that I feel is a healthier communication. I didn't do that, and that was my fault lah. Because if I want to sit in the leadership role, I should have the responsibility to my stakeholders to bring up what is the monthly problems you're facing, or what are the monthly decisions that I'm making as well lah.
Right. Yeah, here's where I think I just want to circle back to the importance of having good mentors, right? Because I enjoy chatting with people and I hear a lot of stories. And definitely this is not the first time that I hear co-founder parting ways, right? And they always tell me this one thing: voice up whatever that you are unhappy with, regardless of whether you think it's important or not. Because it may be important to someone. Yeah, so just voice it up, because that little bit of things can really, really brew in a very unexpected way. You know, last time when I watch a movie, right, you will think that like shareholders breakup is a very drama and it's all the big things that happen, right? Then when I talk to people in real life, right, sometimes it's not. It's very little things. They will tell me stuff like, oh, the guy complained that in the office I talk very loud, lor. So he feel like no face whenever I talk to him very loud. So eventually just break out. I thought you know each other for 15 years already. He must have been talking to you loud for 15 years. How come suddenly? Yeah, then I said, I also don't know. So it's like very small thing that's very unassuming that became those triggering points that lead to the bigger things lah.
Yeah, I agree. So it's never easy working with a large group of people. It takes tremendous, I think, people skill. I'm still developing that. I like to think that I'm good at it, but I manage people downline better than I manage people on the same line. And it's a skill set that if you fuck up one time, you pay the price off, which is what we did that period lah. I lost, I would say, some level of friendship and also partners lah. So the advice is usually don't start a business with your friends. I think that's a silly advice lah. You should start business with your friends, right? But having set expectation. Because if you don't start business with your friend, you start business with your enemies. Doesn't make sense, right? Your friends are people that you trust. But you also have to understand that your friendship can potentially be on the line lah. If everyone understands that and values the friendship, then I think going into it, you will lay down the foundation that allows for the friendship not to break down but to thrive lah. I think we did almost everything right except for maintaining our relationship. Right. Ironically.
Having said that, you did mention that in terms of like managing different people, you are better with managing the downline than the peers, right? This got me reflecting on one thing as well. I think in this whole journey of entrepreneurship, there was a lot of reinventing ourselves. And there was a lot of changing the way we behave. Like me and Frankie, we are actually high school friends. We know each other for a very, very long time, right? But getting to know him at the business level, it's a whole
who's
different
this guy?
thing. Right, yeah. And for him to know me at the business level, it is not that same guy that he know when we go out drinking, right?
And the crazy thing is you're both discovering yourself as business owners.
That's right. So I want to ask about this part for yourself, because you went from an introvert throughout this whole day, sitting down, talking to you, and even outside, I would never think that you're an introvert. And the things that you're involved in right now, the things that you're doing, I bet you look back also, you'll be like, is this really me to a certain extent? Like, wow, that is definitely not the way that I would behave back in high school or whatnot, right? How much of yourself has changed if now you were to look back?
So I think I need to dispel another myth again. Introverts, it's not like we are constantly quiet. It's our energy level. I've learned to store up a lot of energy level so that, where I need to be extroverted, I can be. Being extroverted is also who I am, right? I'm not faking, I'm not becoming another person. In fact, during high school, I was house captain. When I need to stand up and be house captain, I'm there. But then most of the time, you see me sitting quietly behind the class, right? So I think the change is we shouldn't bottle ourselves up in a circle and say that, oh, I'm introvert, I'm supposed to be this way, or I'm extrovert, I'm this way. I think introvert, extrovert is more of the energy level. Like after this, right, then I need to go chill by myself and recharge myself lah. Yeah, social energy. Yeah. But you are right to a certain extent that I did have to learn how to speak publicly when interviewers started coming, and then I have to be on TV, on podcasts. I need to learn new skills that allow for me to I guess, play a role that I'm not usually familiar with. Yeah, but once I learn that skill, then it becomes second nature lah. So talking right now is not an issue, and in fact, sometimes my team will ask me to shut up because I talk too much. Uh, but it's a skill set that we learn, and just like any other skill, it sticks with you lah, and you pull it out when you need to lah.
Yeah.
But my default nature is I will be quietly sitting in a corner for the most part.
Right. Now, so what about this statement that a lot of people make, right, when they start a business? Along the way, I've met many people starting a business, and when sometimes they ask you for advice, right, what they should do. And then when you tell them that, they'll start telling you this one thing, but that's so not me. Yeah. So what do you think about that?
And I've met people like that. My question to them back is, what version of you do you want to be lah? Because a lot of times people, especially in these days, you go open TikTok, you got all these inspiring gurus sharing how to live their life, how to act, how to behave, and so on. And we all have all this like, how I wish I can be that person. If you want to be that individual, and yet you don't want to change yourself, then you're being very contradicting lah. So change is something that we all need to embrace. And if you want to be that version, you need to force yourself to change whether you like it or not lah. I don't know. I don't understand when this is without context lah. When people ask, "Hey, this is not me, but I want to change," then the unwillingness to change is the true you lah. So don't ask people what you want to change. You get what I mean?
That's a good one. That's a good one.
So discover what you want, and if you are unwilling to change, no amount of classes that you pay to go or advice that you seek will ever change you. Yeah, but if there's any trait that will keep an entrepreneur alive, it's the ability to adapt and change.
Right. So for yourself, in this whole journey, what part was it that was hardest for you to change? Like, was there any part that you find it extra challenging?
Crazily, and me being on Mr. Money TV, to care about numbers. I used to run the business thinking that my partner will handle the numbers part. As long as I do well, meaning that I do my job well, people will keep coming to the business, numbers wouldn't be a problem. But numbers is not a problem when you're making money lah. When you're not making money, the numbers is a big issue. So learning to read the numbers, learning to navigate the numbers is a lesson that I'm going through in the last 1 year. And it's been the toughest challenge of my career at the moment. And ironically, as an entrepreneur, first thing that one should know is their numbers. I thought I knew enough, but when, again, you're moving at a larger scale, one wrong move can be a difference between plus 100,000 or negative 100,000. So right. That is a very painful part for me. I thought I knew enough that I can handle it off to somebody else to manage. But as a CEO, it is still my responsibility if the company is not making money, and I need to figure that part out.
So this is something that you've been working on with. Yeah, and I was wondering to myself, right? Because just now over those conversations, we know that you actually have a new investor on board. And as an F&B business, it's very similar to us as a media business, which is when things are good, cash flow is never a problem. You don't really need an investor, right? It came to a point that ultimately you took in an investor. And when you were looking for an investor at that time, right, what are the qualities that you look for in investors?
Ultimately, it was an investor that trusted in me and was aligned with my vision. We spoke to a lot of different investors, and they all have a plan of their own. They wanted us to be the next McDonald's, for example, and just scale only. And then quickly within 3-4 years, we exit together. But what sold me to Kartik was that, hey, I'm going to put in the money. I'm going to give you equal shares. I want you to be able to do what you do well, and I believe in your vision. I'm going to add on top of it some of my own visions, and then the goal is, once we're done with this, we do plan to have an exit strategy, and that you'll be taken care of. And to me, that was what gave me the assurance to work with him.
Do you consider that as what they call a strategic partner or strategic investor? Because every time when we all talk about funding and everything, or a lot of people will tell me this thing, Peter, you don't just want to look for money, you want to look for strategic investor. And I guess for every business it's a little bit different. So for you at this point, or at that point when you were considering it, aside from those things that you mentioned, what were the strategic part that gave you that, like, okay, this would really value add?
One would be his network and connection. that will open a lot of doors for us. So when we need to talk to, let's say, new locations, he would know the developers of the area and open doors for us lah. That's one. The other part is negotiation with suppliers. That also helps a lot. But more importantly, that the last 1 year we have benefited from is definitely putting structure in an unstructured organization. For the longest time, we ran the business as we needed to lah. We have the individual departments, everyone's doing their job, but a lot of functions or structure was not in place. So the first thing that after he came in and his team was to find out on the finance side and the HR side especially what were the structures that were not there, and we introduced it into the company. But of course, in that process, there were a lot of resistance from the team as well. So that was also something that we had to navigate through lah. But I appreciate for it, because without those structures in place or systems in place for those departments, as we grow, it would be very difficult to keep track of what's what lah. Let's just put it that way. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing all this with us, Renyi. So finally, before we go, just one last question. For those people out there who are thinking about starting their own business, what is one skill that you think that they need to learn to run a business successfully?
I can only give advice from the F&B perspective. One skill that you need to have, I would say persistence. F&B is a very turbulent industry, meaning that you will be challenged constantly. And you need the ability to persist through the good and bad times lah. Go work in F&B. A lot of times, I actually have people who come up to me say, I have money, I want to start my own restaurant, this and that. My first question is, have you worked in F&B? Oh no. You don't know how hard it is to work in F&B, don't start F&B. It's difficult. You think you only work 9 to 5. No man. You work 7 a.m. until 11 p.m. Your day is gone. Right, the times that we serve our customers is when we're open. The before and after of prepping and washing all those is another set of work. And when you're starting off, you have to do all those work. No one else is going to do it. For everyone that wants to venture into F&B, I would say think twice. Recently, I've been quoted that do not recommend F&B to your friends and family. You recommend it to your enemies. It's a slow death, bro.
Unless you know what you're doing.
Unless you know what you're doing.
And your persistence as a skill. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Renyi, for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing all these things with us and that layer of honesty. For those who are watching out there, if you like this episode, do hit the like and subscribe button. And at the same time, if you have any questions, you can reach out to My Burger Lab there. Send them random questions, right? Ask them, hey, I want to talk to Renyi like that. Yeah, or is there any way they can reach you?
They can. Renyi at myburgerlab.com. Or if you comment in the comment section, I will be there to reply, at least for the first week.
Also, if you have any question in the that you really want to ask as well, you can shoot us a DM or either write it down in the comment, right? Then, maybe one day when we have a chat, I'll just bring it up to Renyi.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. See you guys.